I'm Maria from Love Book Folding. In this video I'll guide you through the alphanumeric pattern which is available on my Etsy shop Love Book Folding. As you'll see, the alphanumeric pattern is a very versatile pattern. It allows you to create any word or number that you wish, and it can easily be adapted for different heights of books as well. Also, you can create designs with multiple lines, any number of lines that you wish, as long as the height of the book that you have can accommodate the number of lines. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you on this video is a basic one word, one line design. Okay, then we'll go through how to make adjustments to the pattern to allow for books of different heights. Then after that, we'll look at how to accommodate designs with multiple lines. Okay, so firstly, the one word, one line design. Okay, so let's have a look at a basic one word, one line pattern. So what we'll need is a book, a ruler, a pencil. Now, for the purposes of video, so that you can see clearly, I'll be using a bright, nice, big, thick Sharpie so you can see where I'm measuring. A pair of scissors, bone folder, or you can use your fingers, so that's optional. A piece of card, which I'll go into a little bit later. The pattern, and so that means we can get started. Okay, so the pattern comes with a PDF sheet for each character. Okay, so these are the pattern sheets, like this one. So N uppercase pattern sheet, and then it'll have -23 book height. Okay, so those are those sheets. Now, the measurements on this sheet is for a writing line of 11.5 centimeters. Now, this means that the writing line will sit in the middle of a book that's 23 centimeters in height. So this book I've got here is 23 centimeters. Okay, so if we measure down from the top of the page to 11.5 there, so that will be the writing line, and the characters are 5 centimeters high. So basically the characters will sit at that position in a 23 centimeter book height. Okay, so you can see from the printout of the font, which I'll get here so you can see. So this comes with the pattern as well, and you can see from this printout that's included that the writing line, okay, here is basically at the bottom of the character, of each of the characters. Okay, now if a character extends at the bottom, okay, so for instance the J, G, J, etc., then those tails will extend 1.5 centimeters, and you can see that's on that sheet. So they extend 1.5 centimeters below the writing line. So when we go forward and create patterns with multiple lines, we'll need to be taking that into account, so you know they don't merge into anything that might sit underneath. Okay, so the first step is to plan our work. Okay, so if we go to the instructions, we have an example there of creating the word nan. Okay, and from the count table, now the count table again also included lists the number of pages, number of folds, and number of pages for each of the characters that's included in the pattern. Now, I've put both number of pages and number of folds there for you know, some people like to work with number of pages, some people like to work with number of folds. What you must make sure is when you're planning your work, you don't mix the numbers. So either work in folds or work in pages, and whichever you do, just what I tend to do, just cross out the other column so you don't accidentally mix the numbers, otherwise your workings out will be incorrect, and you'll get a pattern that's not right. Okay, so what I tend to do is just get a piece of scrap paper, a piece of scrap paper like this, and then let's have a look. Where's my big pen? Okay, so for the word nan, what I would do, whatever word you're looking at, I'd go write it down like this. Okay, nan, and then I would draw columns like this. Then I'd go to the count table and I'd go uppercase N is 118 pages. The lowercase a needs 74 pages, and the lowercase n needs 66. Okay, then I add all those up together, and in this case, obviously from the example, nice and quick, we can see that that needs 258 pages. Okay, so in this example we're just doing one word, we don't need any spaces. But if your design had two words, for instance, so we had, for example, I love you, I'd do the same, drawing columns, but I'd add a column for that space in between the words. Okay, exactly the same, but for the spaces I would allow about 40 pages or 20 folds. Okay, and I'd just put those in there. Now if you're tight for number of pages in the book that you've got, you can adjust these down, but make sure you keep them the same, otherwise it's going to look a little bit messy. Okay, and then I'd do the same as we did for nan. I'd look up uppercase I needs 80, uppercase L needs 84, lowercase o needs 62, and so on, and add them up together at the end to find out the total number of pages that your pattern requires. Okay, so now we know how many pages our book needs and our pattern needs, which is 258 for the word nan. We then need to find out our starting page in our book that we found. Now this example here, we'll go through that, but obviously every book will be different. But what we need to do is to find out the total number of pages that our book has. Okay, what we need to do is at the start and back of the book, you'll find a thicker page. Now if your pattern is going to be quite big across there, you want to be excluding this because it will fold differently and look differently and stand out from your book, so from the rest of the book. So what we need to do, if we go to the last numbered page of the book that we have, so in this case, okay, it's 265. Okay, write that down on a scrap of paper, 265. We then need to add any unnumbered pages, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we write down 11 underneath like that, and then go to the front because there'll be more at the front. Go to page 1. Okay, there's quite a lot of illustrations in this example book. Generally I tend to avoid books with illustrations, but it doesn't really matter for the purposes of showing you. So for instance, this page is quite a way, this book is quite a way in. Its first numbered page is 15, so we need to count back to 1, so 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then count the extra ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 at the front that are not included in this 265. Okay, so we have a total of 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, a total number of 208 pages that we are able to use for folding in this purpose. So once we've got the total number of pages, then we need to take off the number of pages needed for our pattern. So this is a 258 for the word nan. So we take off 258, which is 08853. So that gives us 30 spare pages in our book. And so that our pattern will sit in the middle, we divide that by 2. So we've got 15 spare pages at the front of the book and also at the back of the book. So then that 15, and remember to count in pages, so not sheets. Okay, so we're counting pages, so that's both sides of the sheet. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so one sheet of paper doesn't matter. So if you end up on an odd number like that, just flick it over, or you can start on that one. So that'll just mean, because we've got an odd number, that you'll be one less the other side, but it doesn't matter. Nobody will notice the one sheet of paper. Okay, so that's how we find our starting page. So if we look at our instructions, we now need to look at top marks, and I'll explain the importance and the significance of top marks in the next section. Right, so the top marks, and as we can see in top 6, I go through the top marks and what they are, but the top marks dictate where your background is going to be. Okay, this is the background, and also how your characters are going to sit, how far in front of the background, or you can actually make them so that they actually invert into the background rather than stick out. So it all depends where you're folding back to, and it'll become clearer as we go along. Basically, when I created the alphabet pattern, obviously I had to test each character to make sure that the pattern was correct, and I used a background at 5 centimeters. So the 5 centimeters is the distance from the front edge of the page to where you're folding to, so that was 5 centimeters. And then for the letters, I gave them a 1 centimeter amount to protrude from the background, which means that I was folding back to 4. Okay, so that fold line here is at 4 centimeters from this front edge of the page. Now, where you decide to make the front the front of your character and the background is totally up to you. You could make it further back from the book, or you could make it further forward. It really is something that you can play around with, to experiment with, you know, have fun, seeing what different measurements, what sort of effect it'll create. However, what I would say, that really don't make it, I mean, 3 centimeters would be a maximum, I would say. I've used 3 centimeters before for the distance between the background and the character, because what starts to happen is that these characters will sort of, those folds will sort of flare a little bit and sort of fan out, and sometimes it can then affect the look and not look quite so clear. So just be careful on that point. Okay, so I mean, we'll see as we go along, you know, because what happens is, if for instance we did the background at 4, okay, and the character at 5, well, that means obviously the background becomes the foreground, and the letters will then be inverted into the background, so it'll look like it's been carved out, which is quite a nice effect as well. So, you know, that you can play around with, because the measurements are there, they're not affected, it's just where you're folding back to. Okay, I hope that makes it a little bit clearer, but as I say, have a play around and see what you like and what you don't like. Okay, now then, so we go to our starting page, and I put a little bit of card here, and what we're going to do is measure whatever marks or positions that you decide on. You want to be marking above this line, just across the top here. And what I tend to do, rather than using a ruler, because we're going to be marking the same position, then what I tend to do is just take a piece of scrap card, and then I'll bring that up closer, and I fold over the edge. And I normally sort of score it first and do it properly, but for the purposes of showing you, okay, I do make a little tab, and then basically what that does is then sort of sit over the edge there like that, so you'll go to the same position each time, and it helps to get an accurate position at the top. Okay, then we want to measure the positions. So if this piece of card, we need to just cut off the end so that it fits our book. And if we're folding back, as in this example, to 4 and 5 from this outside edge, what we need to do is to double up those figures. So we're going to do 10. So we get the end of our card. It's a bit fiddly trying to show you on the camera, but we measure to 10 for the 5 and then 8 for the 4. So we double up those measurements, and you'll see why in a minute. And then basically I'll draw a nice parallel line, and as I say, if I was doing this for real, I'd be a little bit more careful that these lines are parallel. Okay, but you know, as long as we measure back, and they don't have to be specific centimeters, you know, because we mark in a piece of card, then it can be anywhere. Okay, so then we go to our starting page. Okay, and we just need to make those 2 marks. Okay, so we just do 1, 2 like that. Okay, and just mark that on every page. Just go through and mark those marks, each one like that, and carry on right the way through to the last page that you'll be folding. Okay, like that, and so on. And that's your top marks. Okay, so now we're on step 7, marking the measurements. What we need to do now is print off the pattern sheet for each of the letters that you're going to use. And again, don't forget, this is the pattern sheet, and it'll be shows pattern sheet, and don't use the adjustment sheet. The adjustment sheet is for making adjustments later on for the multiple lines and changing your writing line position that we'll cover later on. So make sure you've got the right sheets. These don't need any adjustments. It'll give us a writing line, as I said before, of 11.5 centimeters from the top of the page. Okay, so print every letter that you need to use and then put them in order. So we've got for Nan, uppercase N, lowercase a, lowercase n. So make sure they're in order, otherwise your spelling will be incorrect. And then once you've done that, now, I need to mention also again, if we're doing one line but the line has got spaces in between words, so more than one word, then what I tend to do is just get a piece of scrap paper, okay, and I'd write on 40 there, or however many pages that we're going to use for the space, and I would slip it in. So if that was the I for I love you, then I'd slip that in to the next one, and then LOVE, and then do another one in between love and you, just so that we don't forget those spaces. Okay. All right, so once we've done that, as I say, make sure they're in the correct order, and then we need to start marking off. And all we do, and again, I'm using a big fat Sharpie so that you can see what I'm doing, and we'll go to the first fold, okay, is 10, 6, 5, so we measure down from the top, 10, 0.65 there, 11.1, 11.1 there. Obviously with a big fat Sharpie you're not going to get accurate measurements. Do it with a nice sharp pencil and that'll make all the difference, but I just want to make sure you can see on the camera what I'm doing. So next fold, so I'd cross that off, yeah. Next fold 2, 10.55, 10.55, 11.15, and I just carry on all down the pattern for the N, then the same, the lowercase a on each sheet, and then for instance, okay, if we've got more than 2 we just do, I'll show you obviously out of order here, but you just mark them all there. So it's 8.8 should be there, 10, oh, there we go, 10 is there, 10.55, and then 11.35 be around there. Okay, so you do all the marks for each fold number, okay, on one page. Okay, so once we've done all that, then what we need to be doing, we do it for all the letters in our pattern, including the spaces, etc., between words, if that's what we need. And then the next stage, so our book is all marked up right from the start right to the end with all the measurements, and the next stage we'll start to fold. So we're now at step 8 of the instructions, making the vertical folds. Now what I tend to do, and the order that in which you do this is totally up to you, it's whatever you feel most comfortable with, but I tend to do step 8, 9 and 10 all in one go, so that we make the vertical fold, then we cut the marks, and then we're folding back. I just find that easy, and sometimes I change, depends on the mood depends on the mood I'm in. Anyway, so step 8, making the vertical folds. So these are these top marks, we're now folding back to these. So we marked, if you remember, at 10 and 4, and they were doubling up, and you'll see that why that is now. So first of all we fold to the 10, okay, and we use finger, or we can use bone folder, whatever you prefer. And so that by folding up to the 10, that then gives us a distance here from the front edge of the page to the fold, that gives us 5 centimeters. Okay, and then we open up again and do the same to the 4, so both on the same page. We're folding now back to 4, finger or bone folder, and so that gives us a distance there of 4 centimeters, because that mark there was at 8. Okay, and we do that. We then so that was step 8. Step 9, cutting the mark. So we get our scissors and we just cut at each of those marks that we made back in step 7. Okay, so make a nice straight vertical cut, and make sure the cut goes back to the first, or the fold that's, you know, the last fold, so you're cutting right the way through to there, and then the same with that one. When you've got text, it's a lot easier because you can follow the horizontal line of the text to give you a nice straight cut there. Okay, and then step 10, you're folding back. Basically what you're doing, you're alternating, and wherever your background is will be first. So in this case this is folding to the 5, and because we've already made those folds, it's much easier. And with these pictures behind, you can't see very well. You just get a piece of paper behind so you can see better. There we go. So yeah, so the first one will be back to 5 to the background. The second fold will be back to 4, and then you just alternate however many marks you've got back to 5. Okay, so this is the background, this is the bit sticking out for the character, and then so that's the beginning of the N, and then this is back to the background again. Okay, so that was the first one. I'll do the next one again for you so you can see. So fold back 5 centimeters, fold 4 centimeter fold. And so when you're doing it properly, just make sure that these nice and flush at the top there, so you're getting a nice parallel fold. I didn't do that one very well, but obviously I normally take more time on it. And then open that out, so you've done both folds, and do a nice cut up to that second fold like that. So alternate again, background at 5, next one's back character at 4, background at 5. Okay, so that's the second part of the N. And then I'll just show you if you've got more cuts. Again, we do the same to the top marks. 5, 4, and so if you've got more than 2 cuts, then obviously just cut everyone like that all the way down the page, however many you've got, and obviously the more complicated your design becomes, the more cuts you'll have. But do the same, so you're alternating top one to the background, which is 5 for us here, 4, then back to 5, 4, 5, and you just alternate that all the way through, and you do that for every page of your pattern until you get to the end. Okay, so I've now completed making the vertical folds in step 8, and then cutting the marks, and then folding back to either the 5 or the 4. So now we have the completed pattern. I just wanted to make a point about, because it's very clear here about the avoiding books with illustrations. As you can see, it's created 2 quite dark lines, and then sort of distracts from the word. So avoid that. If there's not very many, you can tear them out, but in this case I think, you know, if you tore those pages out, then the pattern wouldn't sit as it should. Just a note about the when you've got spaces between the words, remember we put a sheet of paper in between words with the number of folds or pages that we were going to leave for the spaces. When you come to those, all you need to do with those is fold it vertically just once to the background position. So whatever position you've decided on for the background, just fold it back to then, and then that'll create the space between the words. So that was doing a background of 5 centimeters from the outside edge of the page, and then with the characters to 4 centimeters. Now if we reverse those, so we're not doing any more measuring, changing any measurements or anything, but instead of folding the background back to 4, I'll fold that to 5. Sorry, instead of folding the background back to 5, I'll fold it back to 4, and then the characters I'll fold back to 5. So the characters will then be inset into the pages. So I can just see what differences you can create with changing the top marks. So if I do that off cams, basically what I'll be doing, so for this effect, we were folding the background first to 5, then to 4, then to 5. So what I'll be doing is folding the background, the first fold back to 4, then the character would go back to 5, and then the background at the bottom up to 4. Okay, so we're just reversing that. So I'll do that off cam and come back and show you how that looks. Right, so there we have it. That's just reversing where we're folding back to, and you can see the different effect that has. And as I said before, it's just a matter of personal preference and how you want the pattern to look. So now to the adjustments. If you want to centre your pattern in the middle of a book and it's not 23 centimeters in height, or if you don't want your design line to be in the middle, or you want to do multiple rows, then it all focuses around the writing line. So what you'll be doing in each of those cases is finding the writing line, the position of the writing line. So it's the measurement, so I'll just confirm that it's the measurement from the top of your page to where you want the letters or the characters to sit. Okay, so what I tend to do is to get a piece of graph paper like this and just note down at the side of the graph paper in centimetres from 0 down the page. Now if for instance your book is 20 centimetres in height, okay, you draw a line there at the 20 centimetre and you just play around with where you want your design to sit, and wherever your characters are going to sit, that will be your writing line. Okay, so if it's in the center of a 20 centimeter book, your writing line is 10. Okay, if you want say a couple of lines, and bearing in mind your characters are in the region of 5 centimeters tall, so you leave a couple of centimeters margin at the top and then count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one set would sit there. So if it was I love you, then that would be the I there, and then next would be the L, etc. at that height there. Don't worry about the width. That's at this stage we're not concerned with that at all. Okay, it's just the writing line. So if that was at 7, then you might want to leave 3 centimeters between the two. You might want to move it up to 1 centimeter. We haven't got any tails in these letters, so we're not worried about any merging. And then we could do, we work up from, so we've got a center, a margin at the bottom as well of 2, and then work up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could try that and put the Y there. You got the Y coming down 1.5, so actually you're better moving it up a bit, so I'd move it up to at least, so you got there, and you just play around until you know you've got everything sitting how you want. And but as I say, it's going to be these writing lines, the positions of your writing line, that's important. So for instance, if that was going to sit there, your writing line would be 7, and then if your Y was going to sit 2 centimeters underneath, then we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't count the 1.5 centimeters in your writing line, because we don't take any notice of that when we're looking at the writing line. Okay, so if the Y was going to sit like that, then your writing line would be 14. So for this design, it would be, your two numbers would be 7 and 14. Okay, so that's what we're concerned with. So find your writing line for your design, and then either if you've got Excel, we can use the Excel spreadsheets, and I'll show you how to do that. Or if you don't have any spreadsheet software at all, then you're going to have to work it out manually, and we'll have a look at that as well. So from the files that you get with the pattern, if you open up the Excel spreadsheets, it'll be under the folder entitled Excel and Excel files, and in there you'll have the list of all the characters that you get with the pattern. So we go back to the I love you example. I've got open here the uppercase I worksheet, and here you'll find the spreadsheets that'll give you the adjustments very, very easily. All you need to do, now there's there's two here. There's worksheet, and it's the worksheet tab down here in the left hand corner that you need to open. The data one, that's just the raw data to create the patterns, so it's the worksheet that you must have open. And then you look at this cell here, writing line, okay, in centimeters, and this is where you type in the position of your writing line. Now if it's for this, if you're looking to center it, just divide the height of your book by 2 and then enter the value in there. Okay, now if we go back to I love you, we were looking at, if you remember, a writing line for I of 7 centimeters. So what we need to do is type in 7 in that cell there, and if you watch these figures as I do that, you'll see that they'll automatically adjust to give you the correct measurements for that writing line. So there we go, and there they go, they'll all change, and you just need, you can cross check and make sure so that none of these values go beyond 7 centimeters, and that's just a double check, if you like, that you've got that correct. So what you'll need to do, you go through the same process for each of the letters or each of the characters on that writing line. So you do the uppercase L, then O, then V, then E. They'd all have the same writing line. Print them off and then have them in order, ready for measuring up. Then you do the same again for U, so Y-O-U, but then that one's got a different writing line, remember, because it sits underneath, and that writing line was 14. So again, you'd open up the files for Y, uppercase Y, then O, then U, and each of those you type in 14 and print off in the same way. And you can do that for as many writing lines as you wish, depending on your design. And so it's very, very simple using the Excel. So if you're looking to make the adjustments manually, so that you don't, if you don't have Excel or any other spreadsheet software, the PDF sheets that you need to be using are the adjustment sheets for each character that's in your design. Okay, so this is the raw data that we work from once we find our writing line. So for instance, if you're looking to center in a book that's not 23 centimeters in height, what you do is find the height of your book, say it was 20 centimeters, you divide that by 2 to get the 10, then you would take 5 off. Now that's basically the height of the character, so you take 5 off, and in this case it would be 5. Okay, so what you'd be doing is adding 5 centimeters to each of the measurements in the adjustment sheet for each of your characters. Okay, you can do that on the sheet here, write them next to it, but probably the quickest way would be to go to your book, your page where you're going to be measuring. For the uppercase I, the first measurement is 4.1, so you could just do it as you went along, add 5 to that, so that would be 9.1, and just go along like so on. Or you could just initially, before you measure off the 5 centimeters, okay, and then do the 5.1 from that line, whichever way's easiest and more comfortable for yourself. Now that's for the center. Now if you're just adding more lines or centering it, then what you need to do, again, it's all about finding the writing line. So you just go the distance from the top of your page or top of your book down to the writing line that you found out. For instance, the example here, I love you, that we were doing, we had a writing line of 7 and a writing line of 14, and in the same way you just add the writing line here, so you'd go 4.1, okay, and then so you go the distance from the top of the book to the desired writing line would be 7, Then you would take off the 5 for the character as we did before, so that would in this case be 2. So we'd be adding 2 to each of the measurements in the same way. And as again, it's as easy as that. Say the quickest way would be to use spreadsheets, but if you don't have that, it's pretty much an easy process as well. I hope this video has helped in the process, but if you still have problems and are confused, then please get back to me, send me a message on lovebookfolding.com or maria@lovebookfolding, and we can go through the details where you're stuck, and I'm sure we can sort that out for you. Thank you very much, and happy folding.